I'm going to go ahead and start now because we have a lot to cover today. We're going to start with first kind of because sometimes there's brand new users. So we're going to cover what ScHARe is. And then we're going to do a quick recap of what we've learned in the prior Think-a-Thons. And then we'll dive into what we're going to do now. In our agenda, we also have, could you go to the next slide, please? The next one. There. In our agenda, we have a guest with us today, Allie. If you can turn on your picture so people know who you are. Allie Cliff with the little TA at the end of her name. She is our technical assistant person from the Terra or Broad Institute, and they have been helping us for the last few Think-a-Thons in doing Terra. If you have not registered yet, and you need to register so that you can get onto the Terra platform when we do hands-on stuff, please look at her name. She's waving, scratching her head, see? Send her a direct message with your email, and she will upload you into the system so that you can participate with us today in all the hands-on sessions with both Terra and ScHARe. If you have been with us before, you are already registered, so you don't have to worry about it. The registration just carries over because once you're registered in ScHARe, you're in ScHARe. So if you're new today, send her a direct message through the chat just by clicking chat, and where it says everyone, just look for her name and just send it to her directly. So you don't have to put it into the broad email. Okay, any questions? Okay, good. So she will get you registered and so that we can fully participate. Everyone can fully participate today. Okay, next. So ScHARe is the Science Collaborative for Health Disparities and Artificial Intelligence Bias Reduction. It is a new cloud platform with Google as the background and Terra as our interface. Next. It's a collaborative effort between the National Institute of Minority Health and Health Disparities, the Office of Data Science and Strategies, and the National Institute of Nursing Research. Next. We want to especially thank our funders, which are on the left-hand side, and all of the working groups and the people that have helped make this possible, contractors, staff, everyone. Next. So first thing we're gonna do is take these polls, and Kevin's gonna explain to you how to take the polls and how to use Slido in some of our extra efforts.
Perfect, thank you. So like Dr. Duran mentioned, we will be using Slido throughout today's webinar to get some feedback from you, the participants. To use Slido, you can either download the Slido app on your phone or simply go to slido.com on either your phone or your computer. Alternatively, you can simply scan the QR code that you see on the screen here on your mobile device, and that will bring up the Slido for today. So to join today's Slido via slido.com or the app, you're just going to enter the code Datasets when it prompts you to enter code here. For those of you on slido.com, that will be the top of the page in a blue box, just like the one you see here on this slide. When we do get to each Slido question or poll, the code will be displayed on the screen, both the code and the QR code. So no need to worry if you haven't gotten there yet. But at this point, everyone feel free to either use that QR code to pull up today's Slido or go to slido.com and enter the code Datasets. And so with that, I will turn it back over to Dr. Duran Dr. Duran, would you like to jump into the first slide, or should we wait for that?
Let's do the first poll. And also I put it into the chat. So if everyone can go there now.
Wonderful. So you should be seeing, Dr. Duran, correct me if I'm wrong, but you should be seeing here this first survey that we've launched. No results yet. I will display those once we have results, but the QR code is here on the screen, so you can go ahead, scan that, or like we mentioned, use the code Datasets at slido.com.
So if everyone can, please log on to there. We'll give you a minute to do that. And I want to really stress the importance of actually filling out these surveys for us, because one of the things that remember that the mission of our efforts here, both for the Think-a-Thon and ScHARe, is to be sure that we're reaching health disparity populations, which includes minorities, sexual gender minorities, racial ethnic minorities, rural, low SES. And it's really important that you all respond so that we can keep track of that. So I'm asking you, please, to log on and to put in responses.
Dr. Duran, just let me know when you're ready to start showing some of those results.
You can start showing some.
You see the results for Python on the screen?
Yes.
Perfect.
And one of the things that we, as many of you may know, in cloud computing, Python and R are the two primary languages. Python is the dominant language in cloud computing. And we will be doing a little bit of this today to help get users started. Even if you don't know code, it doesn't mean you can't use it. So we are going to make sure that you have access to that. There's a question in the chat that says, if you filled it out last time, do you need to fill it out again? The question is, please do, because it helps us track what we do each Think-a-Thon, and each one is different. So please, if you've done it before, please do it again. Because we have different users sometimes. And for those of you also new to Python, the National Library of Medicine is going to do a Python overview and beginning workshop for us, one of the Think-a-Thons. So it will help. So can you do the next R? Oh, it looks like we have more people using R than Python. Next. 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 See, I see some changes in this, because now that you've had a few Think-a-Thons, you can answer these in a different way. Next. Next. This bias mitigation is going to be a very important part of this as we get more efficient in using the resources and tools. Next.
Sorry, that was actually the last one.
Okay. All right. Next slide.
Luca, you might have to share the screen again. Perfect.
thank you all. I appreciate you responding to that because it helps us to have make a case for parity in supporting the efforts that we're doing with Think-a-Thons and ScHARe. Next, Luca. Next. So let me go over real quick. You know, ScHARe was created to really increase the participation of women and underrepresented populations. We really are trying to create a data shift, a paradigm research shift of doing your research questions using big data rather than just the amount of data that you can put on your laptop. So this is a very important part for us, that we start to think of new research questions that use multiple variables with large data sets. And of course, it's bias mitigation. Next, Luca. Okay, the components of ScHARe are, it has a data set, it will have a data repository, computational skills, and tools for evaluating biases. We have a web portal with that supports the Think-a-Thons and the ScHARe registration, and a newsletter. So if you haven't registered for the newsletter, please do. It helps you keep up to date. Next. We're creating a data ecosystem. We have federated public data sets. There's about 150 of them on the site now, and we expect to have almost 300. And they really do focus more on the population sciences, social determinants of health, and environment types of data. It will have hosted data sets like BRFAS, and of course, funded data sets at projects from intramural and extramural. Next. These are just a few examples of the types of data sets that are there. And of course, we have many cloud computing strategies, some of what we will be going over now, as well as what we did in the past. Next. Oh, the last really nice one is we just got funding from our director to add SAS to the ScHARe platform, to Terra. So hopefully that will help people to be able to use the data, even if you don't know Python and R. The bias mitigation, we have to learn how to use the system before we get into some of this, but it will be coming. Next. So next. This is what we're doing in sort of phase 2 of this. We're building the repository. We have the core common data elements, and they're getting approved now through the NIH endorsement process. Next. This is an example of the how the projects will be listed. It will have core common data elements plus all of the data, and they'll be able to link together, which is great because this is one of the very first systems that will be that has been created to do that. Next. They'll also map across the data, core common data elements like we did in the prior slide. Next. And across from the project data also to the federated data or the national data, which is also a phenomena to achieve. Next. And the last sort of mapping that we're going to be doing is from our cloud platform to another cloud platform, such as Biodata Catalyst or Anvil, so that we can combine this social determinants of health and population science data with basic science data and be able to complete types of analysis that are more comprehensive. Go. This is an example of why we can do it, because Terra is the platform of all of these systems. And with Terra as a platform, we can make this, we can interconnect easier. Next. Next. So let's do another poll. If you can go back to Slido, please.
Yep, you should be seeing it now.
And complete the questions. So the one that's making me really happy is that you all want to use big data. And you've come to the right place because we're going to start with big data today. All right, thank you all for participating. So next. Remember that we do these monthly, and we're going to hopefully increase some of them so that we have 2 tracks, because the Think-a-Thons seem to be a very important tool. Next. Okay, Luca, you want to recap what you guys did prior?
Sure. Okay, hello everyone. So I will try to give you a quick recap of what we did last time, mainly because these steps are necessary to do what we are going to do today. So I'm going to try to be fast. If these instructions are not enough for you, you can always refer to the previous slide deck, which has screenshots and step-by-step instructions. Okay, so let me exit full screen. I'm going to try to put these 2 windows side by side so that I can actually show you what each step looks like live. Okay, so let's discuss how we can register for ScHARe. We have a page on our website, this one in particular. You can see a button here saying register for ScHARe on Terra. So what happens when you click on it, you are brought to this form, which is going to collect some information from you. So basically your name, role, email address. Remember that a Google email address is needed for Terra registration. And it's also going to collect some information optional information that we're going to use to inform our outreach efforts and our future Think-a-Thons, such as your level of experience with R, Python, etc., and some demographic data. And once you complete this form, your application will be sent to us, and you can expect to hear from us within 3 or 5 business days, and we'll get you on the platform. You'll receive an email containing all the instructions that you need to actually complete the registration process. And those instructions will point you to the ScHARe Terra workspace. So I'm going to open the link right now to show you what it looks like. I'm actually going to do that in an incognito window to simulate what we will actually see if you haven't registered for Terra yet. So you can see that there is a big login button here. All you have to do is to log in and to sign in with your Google account, right? Or to create an account if you don't have one. The next window is going to show you some terms and conditions that you have to accept. And after that, you will be brought to our ScHARe workspace on Terra, which is going to look like this. So it has a dashboard, right? And then a data tab from which you can actually access all the data sets that we offer and search for data of interest. And you can see that clicking on these tabs here gives you access to the data. And there are options to filter and to search for exactly what you're looking for example, graduation rates, etc. And the categories here, as you know, are organized depending on, based on the social determinants of health categories by the CDC, and plus 2 more that we have added, like health behaviors and healthcare access quality. And this is the condition, sorry. The analysis tab contains a series of instructional notebooks that we have prepared to make your work easier as you learn to use Terra and the platform. And the workflows section is something we don't need to worry about for now, but it's workflows make your work easier, right? Especially if you have some repeated steps or pipelines that you use every time. So these are the main components. And what I would like to do with you today is also explain how the platform works. So you can create a workspace. If you're going to use Terra independently, you can create a workspace and just keep it for yourself. Or if you're interested in collaborating with internal or external collaborators, and many of you seem to be, you can actually assign permissions so that you share your workspace with your collaborators. So I try to imagine a use case, try to simulate what you may be interested in. So let's say there are two groups of collaborators. One group of internal collaborators that are maybe researchers in your lab, and that you want to be able to actually access your data, but also work with you to write the notebooks, modify the data, and actually conduct the analysis. And let's also imagine that there is another group of external collaborators, maybe at another institution, who should be able to read your notebooks and your analysis, but without the possibility of modifying them. So you can create two groups for these two use cases. So if you go to the menu here on the left, you click on the drop-down menu, and you access the groups section.
Luca?
Yes.
I think you need to slow down a little bit and let people get a chance to catch up with you. There's too many people in the chat that aren't even there.
Okay, sure. So
you need to
happy to do that.
Back a little bit and let people get, loaded up.
Of course.
Onto ScHARe.
Of course. I was going fast because we discussed these last time, but of course, many of you are new. So, okay, so.
But they have to, everybody needs to get onto the platform. So let's give them a few minutes to get onto the platform.
Sure.
If you can back up to.
Sure, of course. So I'll go back to the dashboard. And explain how the user interface works a little bit in the meantime.
Go further back to them getting on to ScHARe. So we need everybody to get on to ScHARe.
And when I'm adding people into the groups for billing, I'd say 2/3 or 3/4 are not on Terra. They're not registered Terra users. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. And we'll wait for them to complete the registration.
So we need to slow down and get people caught up.
Perfect.
So if you can go through this part of, I put into the chat for people to email Allie a Google email. It has to be Google friendly, right? And she will approve you to get in. So Luca's going to go now slow on how to do that and what to click.
But if you haven't registered yet, I can add you to the group, but you won't. Yeah, you need to make sure you're registered on the ScHARe site.
Usha, do you have a question?
Yeah, so I registered. I've been attending these Think-a-Thon, so I registered last time. Do I have to register again?
Okay, you don't need to register for Terra again.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Google Chrome is usually what is used mostly.
Yes.
Terra doesn't work as well in Edge. So if you use Google or Chrome, it's probably the best.
So all you have to do to register, once you give your email address to Ali, what she will do, she will give you permission to actually access the ScHARe workspace. So you don't need to worry about this part, of course, because Ali is admin.
No, that's not true. People need to be registered first. So I'm putting everyone in the groups, but for most people, it's telling me these are not Terra users. I'm adding them anyway, but you need to register first. So it's like you need to have an account, and then I can add your email to the billing.
Thank you, Ali. Yeah, what I meant is you don't need to worry about this part, about completing the form, because that form is used only to collect your email address, and you're already providing that to Ali. So all you have to do is actually to go to our ScHARe Terra workspace. I'll paste the link in the chat. It's easy.
So Luca put it in the chat.
I've done that. And the next step, once Ali is giving you access, you can complete this step in any case. You paste it in your browser. And then you'll be brought to this window. You see there is a login button. And the purpose here is to create a Terra account that will allow you to access the ScHARe workspace. So all you have to do is press on login. And in this window here, you can select sign in with Google. When you do that, this window appears, and you just have to use the same email address that you sent to Ali. And in the next screen,
just hold on a minute, let people get there. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, of course, absolutely. Let me know if I'm going too fast. Anytime you have questions, we are here for you. So.
And let me just remind you guys that you have to use a Google email. It's so a Gmail. I mean, some of my NIH is a Google emails, so I can do that. But you don't have to email it to her. Click the button in chat that says everyone, and there's the little drop down button, and you just scroll till you see her name, Ali Cliff, and it's like 2, 4, 6 people down, and then you just instead of it saying everyone, it's going to say direct message to Ali. So you send her in the chat right here, send Ali your Google email through direct chat. And it's nice that we have so many new users.
Yes.
Again, you don't need Ali's email. You need to hit everyone, the little tab in the chats. When you hit everyone, there's a little caret that's upside down. If you click on that, it's going to show you everybody on the call. And Ali is like the 6th person down. You click on her name and it goes directly to her. If you can't find her, just send it in the general chat to everybody.
I see a question in the chat. So actually, you don't have to create a new workspace for now. And of course, that would take you to the billing page. It makes sense. So for now, if you're not registered for Terra, you just have to create a new account. That's all. And
yeah, but for this purpose, you're using NIMHD's free account.
Yes.
So where you have to tell them what to click, Luca.
Yes, of course. So let me show the next steps. So I'm going to use like an email address.
You don't have to create your own account. You're using NIMHD's account today. We've set up a free account for you today.
So I'm trying to show you what the next steps look like. So I'm going to use an email address. It's actually a Gmail address. It doesn't look like one, which hasn't been used to log into Terra before. And then I'll input my password. Then you see I'm brought to this page, which allows new users to register for a Terra account. So I put in my information. The contact email is already populated. And then I'm going to click on register. So the next page asks me to accept the Terra terms of service. So feel free to review them and to press on accept at the bottom. Let me know if this is too slow or too fast. Okay, perfect. And then I haven't given my email address to Ali, so I'm not seeing the share workspace, but you guys did. So the next screen for you will be this one. You'll be able to see the share Terra workspace.
Okay, so hopefully everybody's getting on there now. So if you're having further problems, just contact Ali. Today, you don't have to have a billing account and stuff because you're using NIMHD's the Think-a-Thon account.
Correct.
Usha, it says that yours is like loading Terra for a long time. It might be because everybody's trying to get in. So you might want to just refresh your screen or something. Okay, Luca.
Mm-hmm. Perfect.
Let me just take a poll here. Okay. I'm going to take a little poll. Raise your hand if you're not on the Terra platform with ScHARe. If you're not, and you want to be.
Okay.
Okay. So, Kevin, all those people that have their hand raised, will you please put them in a chat room with Ali, please?
I'm absolutely doing it now.
Keep your hand raised so he knows to put you in the chat with Ali, and she'll get you logged on in a breakout. Okay. And as soon as you're logged on, please just say leave breakout and come back to us. Okay, Luca, let's go.
Okay, perfect. So I was going to try to show you how you can work with the Terra account. So I was imagining two use cases in terms of collaborations. So you might want to use your workspace independently. And so that's fairly easy. You just create a new workspace. I will show you how to do that. Or a second case could be that you want to share that workspace with your collaborators, working with you on a shared project, for example. And there might be collaborators that you want to have access, like bright access to all your analysis, all your notebooks, all your results. And you want them to be able to actually perform the computations. Okay. And a second case could be there might be some collaborators, maybe at other institutions, who you want to be able to see your data and your analysis, but you don't want them to actually be able to modify them. So with these two use cases in mind, I'm going to show you how you can create groups within your Terra account so that you can invite other people to work with you, since that's something that most of you expressed interest in. So you can click on this menu here and on this drop-down menu. And I would invite all of you to do the same, to replicate my steps. I mean, groups are not necessary today, but you can do that. You can try that if you're interested. And we're going to click on groups. When I do that, you can see that this is the group management page. I'm able to create a new group by pressing this button here. And you see that I already did that exercise, right?
So the button to press is called Create a New Group.
And then you can assign any name to this group of collaborators, for example, external collaborators. Of course, the group name can only contain letters, numbers, underscores, so no white spaces. And then you can go ahead and create the group. Okay, so we've just created a group, and now we can add people to it. All I have to do is click on the group, and you'll be presented with this screen. You can click on Add Users.
Luca, go back, please.
Sure.
Okay, so in order to add the users, you click on the name of your group. So click on the name of the group that you want. So Luca's going to do that now.
Mm-hmm.
And now it brings him to the next screen.
And on this screen, you're able to actually add users to your group. So to do that, you click on the blue button here, Add User. And now you're offered the possibility of entering the email address.
But just use mine, Luca.
Okay. Here you can decide if you want to assign further privileges, like admin privileges to your users, but we don't need to worry about that now. It's a simple use case. So the next step is you have to click on Add User. And you see that we have added a user to this group. And you can repeat the process for as many users as needed. Now I'm going to go back to the previous page by clicking back. And I'm going to create a new group for our second use case, right? The internal collaborators, the close collaborators, let's call them. Same thing here, no spaces. And then I'm going to click on Create Group. Now, to add users to this group, I'm going to click on the name of the group, like this. And then I'm going to click on Add User again. And now I can add another email address, for example, of a close collaborator. So for now, we are just creating the groups. We'll deal with permissions and what you want each group to be able to do later. Okay, so once you have enough users here, it's time to create actually the workspace that you're gonna share with them. So you click on the menu here and on workspaces next. So you'll be presented with this screen that has a list of all workspaces associated with your account. And all of you should see this workspace, ScHARe Think-a-Thons, which is the one that we're going to use today.
Keep in mind, your screen is not going to look like Luca's.
Yes.
This is Luca's account. So what you're going to look for is the ScHARe Think-a-Thon. That should be on everyone's screen.
Yes. And what you're going to do here is you're going to create a new workspace. we're not going to use it today, but this is just to demonstrate how you can use the platform to work with your own data in the next few days. So I think it's helpful to demonstrate it. So you're going to click on this plus button near workspaces. You'll be presented with this window here, where you have to input the workspace name. We could call it, I don't know, research project. And then here, you'll be asked to select a billing project. Today, there's not going to be any cost for you to do all of this because we are supporting this tutorial. And here, you should be able to see the ScHARe 10 billing project, which is the free billing project that we all have registered for. So you're going to select it from the drop-down menu. So you're going to click on ScHARe 10. Then the next thing to decide is the bucket location. We don't need to worry about this.
So raise your hand if you don't see ScHARe 10. Oh, this is a good sign. Yay!
Perfect.
We're achieving a lot. Hey, go.
Yeah. We might be able to cover less than we thought, but I think it's helpful to go slow and make sure that everyone is following. Okay, so bucket location, you don't need to worry about this for now. But just to tell you what it is, I mean, when you create a workspace, it is associated with some cloud storage, so some space where your data is hosted. And this data resides on servers, right? And on computers that are in a physical location. There are many locations, and the reason being that some users may need for data to reside in a specific location. So for example, European users might have a requirement for data to reside in Europe, and vice versa for American users.
Okay, let's move along. That's not that important. We're just going to use Iowa as default.
Let's stick to the default.
Yes, we're just doing default.
Perfect. And then description, you can enter a description for your space or your research project. And then we don't need to worry about the authorization domain. It's a security feature that allows people, that protects your work from people sharing it without permission. But we don't need to worry about that now. We'll explain it probably in the next session. So
nice.
Now I'm gonna create a workspace. Well, already exists. Nice. So maybe someone else has chosen the same name. Yeah, let me modify it a little bit. Names must be unique for that billing project. So if you see the same error, just change the name of your workspace accordingly. It's going to take some time. Okay, so as you can see, it looks exactly like ours, right? So dashboard here, it's empty, of course, but you can modify it, add your description, your research project, put images into it, etc. And then a data tab, which is also empty. You still have to upload the data, right? And the analysis section, which is also empty as expected, etc. So it's going to look exactly like ours. What I'm going to do now is worry about permissions. So we have created those two groups of collaborators that are going to work with you. So what we want to do now is share the workspace with each group, assigning different permissions based on what you want them to be able to do. And again, this is not a requirement. If you don't want to collaborate with someone, you can keep your own workspace.
Let's move from that and just go to the data part, because that's okay. We're just all in it together right now.
Okay, I'm just going to show you real quick how you can share the workspace, and we're going to move on to the next part. So we have created this workspace here, right? All you have to do is click on this cap menu here, and you'll see the option to share it. When you do that, you can add here the group email for your group of collaborators. I'm going to show that to you in a moment. Actually, let's do that real quick. So I'm going to go back to the groups page. And you see that for the groups that we have created, for example, this one, the first one, we have a group email. So you don't need to manually add each member of that group when you share the workspace. You can just use this group email. So I'm going to copy it. I'm going to go back to the workspace. Kebab menu here. Share. I'm going to add this group. Close collaborators. And then here is where I can decide which permissions to assign. So in this case, it's not going to be a reader. I want them to be able to work on my analysis with me. So it's going to be a writer. And since I want them to be able to also perform computations, I'm going to select this box, can compute. And then I'm going to save. And that's all. And you can repeat the same process with the other group, assigning different permissions. So read-only permissions. Okay, so that's all I wanted to say about sharing your workspace. The next thing is cloning a notebook, and we're going to need that today. So let's go back to the workspaces section, okay, by clicking on that menu and then workspaces. And let's select the ScHARe Think-a-Thons notebook. So this is a copy of our main workbook that we have created for the purpose of this tutorial. What we're going to do is we're going to clone it, meaning that you're going to copy it and you're going to have a copy of it in your workspace. So you'll have access to all the data in it, all the instruction books.
Luca?
Yes.
It's important to explain why you have to clone.
Yes, you have to clone it because that way you'll be able to, modify it, and you'll be able to reuse all the resources that are in there. So when you copy a notebook, or when you copy a workspace, sorry, all the data that is contained in that workspace is also copied, and all the notebooks, all the resources. So when you create a copy of this, you'll have an exact copy of our workspace that you can modify as you please and that you can use to learn. So data and resources. So to copy it or clone it, as we say, you click on the kebab menu here for that workspace. It's the ScHARe Think-a-Thons workspace. You click on clone. And when you do that, you're brought to this page, right? You have to select the workspace name. It cannot be the same. Don't use copy because everyone will be using that. So something else. And then select the building project, the same that I told you about before, the ScHARe temp. It's the free temporary building project. Bucket location, we don't need to worry about. Description, same thing. Authorization domain, same thing. So you can leave everything as it is. And then you click on clone workspace.
The importance about cloning is that you can use what's already there, and now it's yours. So now that it's yours in your workspace, you can change it as much as you want, but it doesn't impact the first ScHARe Think-a-Thon. It doesn't impact the first module, the first workspace. But it's really good for you to clone it, to copy it. Clone means copy. Rename it under yours. It's kind of like, it's no different than if you were doing like a Word document, right? If you want to do a different version, you copy the first version and then you put a V1 or a V2 so that you can use it the same way. That's the same thing with this. You're going to clone a workspace because it has information in it that you need. Now it's yours. You can change it as much as you want, and it doesn't impact the first. Okay? So that's what he's doing here to show you so that you can, initially you guys are not going to have many workspaces or different variations, but as this grows, you may have 2 or 3 different working groups in which you want to use the same information, but change it differently for different ones. So, like if you're a researcher and you're doing a couple of different projects, you may be using the same data sets and the same instructions. So you can clone it and then tailor it to each of your different collaborators. Is there any questions about that?
And it's also important to know that we decided that you will be able to do this, of course. So you have to you have to give permission if you want people to be able to copy your workspace. It doesn't happen.
Smita, you have a question?
Yes. So I think my question is for the previous section, creating the workspace. So once we were creating the workspace, there was a selection for domain. And so at this point of time, do we have authorization for any of the domains, or what we need to select to create?
Okay, so we don't need to worry about that now. What authorization domains are, it's like a security feature, right? It protects you from other people just sharing your work without you to do that.
We skip that part of it.
Yes.
Because it's not important right now. It is a more advanced feature that we'll go over later.
Okay.
You can leave the default values. You can leave
Usha, you have a question?
Yeah. So every time you clone something, I have a billing question as well as like a programmatic question. So any changes you make, you have to every time clone. And then what is the implication for it for billing? Because I know that, the more workspaces I create, the more, dollars it's going to cost me, correct?
Tim, you want to answer that?
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about, so there's two ways to share a workspace. One way is to directly share a workspace. And that's done in the upper right-hand corner with little dots. And so that's different than cloning. So sharing just has one copy of something and everyone works together on it. So they can mess with your work if you want them to, and that's great and everything. Or you can say, hey, I want Tim to work with this data, but I don't want him to mess up what I'm doing. So Tim, clone that, put it on your own billing, and then you do whatever you want on your own computing. And so that's where clone really comes in, is be able to like make a copy, put it on their billing, and they can work with that, and it gives you flexibility that way. You could also, of course, clone something if you want to time market or version it, but there's other ways of doing that as well. That's the real differences between the two. Now, for cloning, when you look at the clone data, the data in a cloned workspace, typically it's not copied, it's linked, right? Because we're in a cloud environment, we don't want things to be expensive, right? And so the opportunity in a cloud environment allows one to link data. And so you can often have just links as opposed to actual data. And that can keep your costs down when you're making multiple copies, for instance. And so there's ways of doing that for sure. Now, if you have two different workspaces, they're going to each have their own costs, but they don't have to be like data copied on data copied on data copied. That's not good practices, as you're pointing out, and it's not required. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
It's a really great question. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so now that we have our workspaces, we're going to try to get into what our main topic is today, which is supposed to be billing. I meant data sets.
Yes, data sets. But I'm going to ask you to do one final step for me, because it's something that requires some time. So I want us to get started on that. So as you can see, when we cloned the workspace, the data contained in it was also copied, and also the analysis, right, that were contained in our workspace. So you see, we have a list of notebooks here. We're going to use two of them today to demonstrate how you can work with data. And it's important to complete one of these steps. So let's open one of them. If you can go to the analysis tab on your computer, and you can open this notebook, number 9, how to upload, access, plot, and save data stored locally using Python.
Just wait a minute, Luca. Let him get there.
Okay. Yeah, we need to do this first, because it takes some time for the cloud environment to start. So in the meantime, I'll use that time to give you some more explanations.
So once everybody at Jupyter number 9, now click on it. Now let him upload it, Luca, while you're talking.
Sure.
Click on it.
You just have to click on it, and then you'll be shown a preview of the content. And what you have to click on is open here. And what I wanted to explain to you is that you will be brought to this window here that asks you to configure the cloud environment. What does that mean? It's like a virtual machine, like a copy of a computer, of a physical computer, that will actually be used to perform the computations. And you'll be able to select what kind of power you want, what kind of storage space you want. And there are, advanced steps that you can, advanced requirements that you can configure here that will make your work easier with your collaborators. We're not going to worry about that now. But just to show you, you can select the number of CPUs, which means, processing units, computer processing units. So, the more you select, of course, the more powerful your computer is going to be. I would stick to 1 now. And the amount of memory that is used while performing the computations. And for certain applications, you need even more computing power, and you will select this box here.
Yeah, but for most of the stuff that we're doing, we don't need that. That is mostly done for big genomic data sets. Because most of you don't need to click on any of these things. Just create, hit create.
Yes, and this cell here is going to give you a preview of the cost that you're going to incur. You're not going to incur any costs today. We're going to do that, but this is going to be helpful for later.
Please hit create.
Create. You click on it. Then you see it takes some time, right? It says creating cloud environment. You can navigate your way and return in 3-5 minutes. So,
the reason we're having you do this right now is because this is a tool, like a resource on how you're going to analyze the data and work with the data. So we're uploading this into your system on each of your computers. So it takes a little bit of time, especially we're all doing it at the same time. So we need you to do this first step of create. For those of you who are a little late coming to us, because you finally got onto the system, they just gave me an email that they got everybody on. Go to the analysis tab, scroll down to Jupyter 9, number 9.
Here.
Click on it. And then when the little screen comes up on the side, you just hit the button create.
Click on open first, and then you'll be presented with that side screen and you click create on that. Okay. So while we wait.
And you don't touch your computers now because it's uploading.
While we wait, can I ask a question? Or?
Yes, and we're going to go over what we're going to basically cover. So yes, please ask the question.
I'll be very quick. So you showed me all the options, whether it is a CPU, GPU, and then there was a compute environment, is a standard VM, right? The standard virtual machine. What are the other options in that one?
We're going to skip that part of it if you don't mind.
Okay.
If Tim, you have a quick answer to it, that's fine. But a lot of this drop down that you see that in that whole thing that you're talking there, this system was actually built for genomic data, and they need big power because they have so many genomic data sets, right? So a lot of these options are for that. We don't really need that in social sciences and the data sets we're dealing with. So the standard default is pretty okay. Tim?
Usha, I'll chat you, Usha, in messages in the chat if you want. Great question, but I'll just chat you there if you want.
Yeah, thank you. Because I'm having some issues with processing 600,000 records, population science data set. Mm-hmm. So I was curious.
Okay.
Yep.
Well,
cool.
Tim will help you.
Perfect.
Kevin, can you put Usha and Tim in a breakout so they can work out this?
Will do.
Perfect.
Okay, so let's move on.
Okay. So as you can see, today's tutorials are going to be about working with data. So there are two categories of data that you can work with on ScHARe. Data that is already in the ScHARe data ecosystem, or data that you upload. So for example, your project data or something you're working with. So in terms of data that is already in the shared data ecosystem, as we said, we're going to have three kinds of data sets, right? So the Google Cloud public data sets, which are data sets that are publicly accessible, hosted by Google. They have a Google Cloud public data set program. They host all these helpful data sets. And we're going to also have the ScHARe hosted public data sets, which are going to be the data sets that we will host, publicly accessible, de-identified. And then the third category is the funded data sets on ScHARe. So these are going to be publicly accessible, but also controlled access. And it's going to be funded program or project data in compliance with the NIH data sharing policy. And there are two ways to explore the available data on ScHARe. One is the data tab that I showed you before, right? And I showed you how to do that. I can even show you real quick, but let me do that actually. Okay. So from this tab here, you'll be able to explore all the data sets that are in our workspace, right? Divided by category. And you'll also be able to search and to explore everything that is available. And we also have an additional resource to explore the data sets that we host. So there's a notebook here, the first one, list of data sets available on ScHARe. So if you click on it, no, don't do that now, but just to show you what's available. So here is a more comprehensive list of all of the data sets that are on ScHARe. So for each one, they're divided using the same categories. And for each one, you can see that there are links to the source and a description of the data set, etc., and other helpful information. So all of that is also available. And I'm curious to ask you what other data sets, other than these, if you have had a chance to look at them, would you like to see? And like, what kind of research questions do you think these data sets, mostly focused on population science data and the social determinants of health data, health delivery research, can enable for health disparities research? So Kevin, I'm going to ask you to please help us with this poll.
All right.
Before we do the poll, I want to give you guys just a minute to look at that screen on the data science. I'm sorry, the data, hit all the data sets. If you scroll down.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to enlarge this. Okay. Okay.
And I want you to also note that sometimes there are 4, 5, 10 years of some of these data sets. Luca, will you please look at Allie's question and answer it?
Sure.
Allie, send it to Luca, please. So as you can see in these data sets, there's lots of years. So adjusted graduation, it means that there's different years with them. So I want you to just take a minute and explore this data page by yourself. Scroll across, look at the tabs across, and then scroll down so you can see all the different sets. Luca, please look in the chat for Allie.
Yes, I'm getting.
I'm all good. I'm good. I'm good.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
So notice that over on the left-hand side, the data sets are actually put into the social determinants of health categories with the 2 extras added with behavioral and
disease and conditions.
But the rest of the categories are the way CDC organizes their data sets. Now, I can just hear some of you going, well, some of them are both. Yes, they are. But we picked sort of what the dominant part of that data set is. So we classified them under one of these, but if you go look for it, like if you put BRFAS under search, it's going to pop up. So if you know the data set you're looking for, it's fine to just search the data set. But if you don't know what you want, you can click on the icon like health behaviors and see how many data sets are actually available there for you to look at. And of course, as you go across, you have many options to see what's in the data set itself.
Can I ask you a question, please?
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Where do you find the electronic health record data? Is B2?
We don't have electronic health record data in the data sets.
Not right now, it's in the plans, but
it's in the plans, but these are right now, all we have in the data sets are federated national data sets.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
It requires a whole bunch of HIPAA requirements for electronic health records. They are in the process, but we're not there yet. Yes, we do have some data sets with pediatric data. It's not just adults. There's in fact, the youth BRFAS is, I think, the second data set in there.
You have a couple of them, yes.
Yeah, for those of you who are exploring, of course, you can open them. We're going to take you through an exercise to help you know how to take that, look at the data set and put it into your workspace so that you can work with it. But I just wanted you to take a look at it so that you can answer our other ideas. So the poll is up, and if you can think of any other data sets that are not electronic health records, because that's a different story. If you have any kind of data sets that you think are really relevant, like for population science, we're not really focusing a lot on the disease and disorders, mostly because we're going to be able to link to all these other platforms, and they're going to have a much better plethora of data because that's their specialty. And our specialty is going to be more about population science, behavior, social determinants of health. And as we're able to connect across the platforms, you'll be able to get all the specific disease and disorder data. We will.
I have a question regarding the data set.
Okay.
Now, given that we have it stored in the system, do we also have to, is this so let me rephrase, is it an open source data set?
Yes.
So we don't have to go through any approval to use it. We just pay for whatever, I guess, whatever time that we're using within this particular system or share system where we see bill.
Well, actually, to look at the data, you don't pay. The only time you pay is when you're actually running some sort of analysis that takes some time.
Okay.
So as long as you're looking and searching and sieging, you're fine. And all of the data sets that are on there right now is open source federated data sets. So there's no PII. We are preparing in the next phase for PII data. That means that has to have permissions. That's a whole different process, because right now you can access these data sets and do anything you want with them, and there's no problem. When it comes to PII data, you have to go through an approval process in order to get to it. So that's sort of the next phase.
Okay, so the area that you said is looking at SDOH, population science and behavior?
Yes, that's what our focus is.
Okay. On a national level?
On a national level.
All right.
There's some state data in here also. I mean, it's not just national data, there's state data.
Okay.
But it's collected at a national level. So it's
Okay.
all states, you know what I mean? It's not like just one state.
Okay, thank you.
I love all the answers we are getting.
Yeah, I love that you're putting a lot of these in, especially if you know specific names of data sets that you've worked with in the past and you want to include, it's better to put the name of the data set rather than environmental data. So put the name of the data set.
And to answer some of the questions, Robin, yes, you can upload and work with your own protected data. It's secure and it's totally recommended.
And actually, we're going to go over your own data probably next time. We're going to run out of time today.
No, we might be able to make it. That part, yes. Maybe the Google Query data sets next time, probably.
Okay.
So you're asking how is this different from census data? We have census data sets, right? We have ACS and all. The advantage is they're all in the same place. They're centralized. You can combine them, merge them, and work with data that is all in the same repository in the same place.
So this is one of the sort of advantages of ScHARe, is that especially for the social determinants of health, the data sets are everywhere. It's at Department of Education, Department of Labor, Transportation, and we've gone to all of these sites in order to bring them together into this central location. So it's not like there's anything different about their data and this data. It's just that it's in a centralized location.
Okay. Another question that I have. So this is on a patient level data or is aggregated? Because sometimes the open source data are aggregated data.
All open source data is aggregated. There's no patient data, or it would be PII.
Okay.
Like, there's a question about why using this program over using a free analysis software. I mean, this way you get all the benefits of the cloud, right? So the tools, the additional tools that are available, Python libraries, you can do all sorts of analysis, even complex ones, and you can work with big data using all these tools. And security is also another benefit. And also online collaboration, for example, in the same notebook with researchers at different institutions, working on the same project in real time. And I mean, there are so many, I could go on, and you might actually save on costs also. And there be any other benefits that come to mind?
But the difference, I think, and you're going to see, I mean, we're trying to give you baby steps to get there, but what is going to be different about this is when we're in the next phase and you can aggregate data sets together, like you can map data sets, you're going to be able to take your individual data set and map it to a federated data set. You're going to be able to take your individual data set and map it to other people's individual data sets. So this is the benefit of being in a cloud. You can't do that on free resource access information. And that's what we're trying to do here, is create a paradigm shift in research thinking to move away from what we can do on a laptop to using big data with multiple variables. Yes, all the data sets here are clean because they are federated data sets. They're public federated data sets, so they're all clean. The Framingham Heart Study and some of these other data sets are on our list to put on when we move into the PII phase, meaning that there's personal information in the data sets. So we're going to move to the next question that we have here, because I think this is going to help you start to think about, after you saw all of those data sets, what are the kind of research questions that you would ask if you had all these data sets available to you? So for instance, let me give you an example. what we do on our laptops is we say, let's see what kind of mediator or moderator education is on health outcomes. And we do that analysis, and we're using one social determinant of health for one particular outcome or two. What this big data does, it allows you to use multiple social determinants of health so that we can actually go through and look at patterns so that we're able to see which of these social determinants of health actually make a difference at what stage of a disease and for what age. So it allows us to look at multiple things that we haven't been able to do on a small computer. So we have to think of different kinds of questions, not just X then Y. So as you, and right now we're asking what are some possible questions, like an intersectional analysis, because now we can look at, we can put in, for instance, when we talk about intersectionality, you have what happens when a person is both a minority and a sexual gender minority and a racial ethnic minority. And you can actually put all of that in to the system to look at. Okay. So please add any ideas, because we'll take some of these ideas and use them in future Think-a-Thons, especially when we're looking at research questions. Mm-hmm. So Luca, let's move so we can get some data in our workspace.
Okay. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Perfect. So by this time, I'm sure the cloud environment has loaded for each one of you. So if you can, actually, you should have the notebook open, notebook 9. But if you don't, just go back to the analysis list. They're called analysis. They used to be called notebooks, and you go to number 9. You click on it. You click open. And you see that this time it's really quick. Okay, perfect. And if you guys don't know what a notebook is, I wanted to explain that. So a Jupyter notebook is like an interactive analysis tool that includes both documentation to make it easier to share your work, reproduce your analysis, and also code cells. So you can write actual code. It could be Python or R for manipulating and visualizing data in real time. And it's now a major part of the data science workflow. And it can help make your work more transparent, reproducible, and understandable, and shareable, of course. So I think it's a powerful tool. And let me show you how we can work with data uploaded to Terra. So let's imagine a use case in which you have some project data on your computers and you want to transition to the cloud. So to use Terra to actually work on your analysis. And we're going to show you how to work with data uploaded to Terra using Python. And there is no reason why we wouldn't do this with R as well. And we actually have a notebook dedicated to providing instructions on how to use R instead. And those of you who are more familiar with R, feel free to review that and use that. But for today's event, we're going to focus on Python. Python because it's a computer programming language that is used in data science to manipulate, analyze data, create data visualizations, build machine learning algorithms. And it's really important to learn how to use it. 69% of data scientists use Python versus R. Those are the latest stats. And it has a lot of powerful tools. They're called libraries, and that offer additional functionalities. You can see some examples listed here. They allow you to do anything from linear algebra, random data structures, any data science task or machine learning tasks. So it's really a powerful language. And
so go back, please, Luca.
Sure.
So remember in the last couple of Think-a-Thons, we've talked about you don't have to know Python, you can cut and paste code. So these libraries that he's talking about has code in it, and it allows you to go there and you can cut and paste the code instead of having to know Python yourself. So this is like reusable code, and that's why it's in a library.
Okay, and the question is, can you learn Python with no experience? Yes, you can. It's like the perfect programming language for people who don't have any coding experience. It's really simple, easily understandable, so it's really accessible to beginners. And it takes a while to learn it, maybe 2 to 5 or 6 months. But then it's also really easy, as Debbie was saying, to just write your first short program or your analysis in minutes by reusing existing codes and accessing documentation and online resources, and going from there and learning. And there are plenty of online resources that we recommend using. There are dozens of online tutorials at any level of experience. So there are tutorials for beginners, for advanced programmers, and we'll put together a list here. You can visit each link, and like some of them have like 30 plus tutorials. So there's plenty of resources. And
remember that the slides will be posted on our webpage about a week or two after the Think-a-Thon, so you can have access to all of this.
And also the alternative is using R, which Terra also supports. And I'm sure all of you know, but R is a programming language for statistical computing and graphics used for data analysis. And the nice thing about it is that users can create packages to augment its functions, similarly to what happens in Python. And there are also third-party graphical user interfaces that you can use, such as RStudio, which is also supported by Terra. So we have options like for everyone. And I'm going to show you just this slide to introduce the data we're going to work with today. We're going to use a TSV file. So what is a TSV file? Like, it's one of the commonly used file formats in data science. So others are like CSV, of course, Excel files, and JSON, HTML, etc. There are many. And actually, I've put here a link to a page explaining how you can use Python code to read each of these formats. So that might be helpful for maybe the more advanced users among us.
So some of you who aren't familiar with some of this, you're probably more familiar with a Word document, right? And when you go to save, the first line of save is the name of the file. And then in the second bar under a Word document, you can pick whether you want to save it as an Adobe Acrobat, as a text file, as all different kinds of things. That's the same thing that happens with these Excel spreadsheets and files. You can pick how you want to save them. And each of them have a special purpose. And Luca put a link to a document that will explain to you what each of those actually means, whether it's a PDF file or a TSV or CSV, or text file, a zip file, and that's all explained in that link. But today we're going to use a TSV, which is
top separated box.
It's for data.
And then we're going to work with data from the Minority Health Social Vulnerability Index dataset. So it's a 2021 extension of the original Social Vulnerability Index by the CDC. And it is used to help plan support for communities in public health emergencies because it combines the 15 original social factors that were in the Social Vulnerability Index with additional factors, right, known to be associated with COVID outcomes, for example. And these factors are organized into 6 themes. So socioeconomic status, household composition, disability, minority status and language, housing type and transportation access, healthcare infrastructure and access, and medical vulnerability. And that said, I think we are finally ready to go to our notebook. So here it is. So do you have it open? Like all of you have it open?
Okay, everybody open your notebook, get on that page so we can all do this together.
Notebook 9. Okay, so this is what a notebook looks like. So as you can see, there is a part of it is description, right? Text. So for example, to make things easier, I put here some explanations, what you will be able to learn from this notebook. What is the use case, how much it will cost, right? What data we will use, and what does the notebook do? And then you can see that it's also divided into sections, by the way. If you see here on the left, it's pretty easy to navigate it. So you can actually get an idea of what we're going to do, right? So the first one is Python environment setup. Then we're going to load data, etc. You can click on each section to just skip to that part. And you see that you can see that besides the text and the documentation part, there are these cells here that are actually code cells where you can write code. In this case, Python. See, you have an option here. If you can see my cursor, it says Python 3 here. You can switch between R and Python. So that's the nice thing. Also about Jupyter notebooks. And this is a Python notebook. And you can see in these cells, I can write code. And it's pretty easy to run this code and to execute it. And you actually can do that using this play button here. And you can see that when the code is executed, it is executed right here in the notebook. So you can immediately see the results. And in this case, we are just installing something that is necessary to work with the code. In other cases, it could be, for example, a table, right? Or a plot. And everything is in the same document. And this document you can share.
Many people are lost. So
sure. What can I explain better?
And go a little slower so that they can follow what you're doing.
Sure. Yeah, I was just trying to explain what a notebook is. So it's basically a document for interactive analysis. And there is a text portion.
Yes, let's just stay focused on getting the data set into the workspace. Okay, so the notebook will help you do that. And because people are very lost, so let's just do one thing.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so I have explained what we are going to do with this notebook, right? So the first thing we need to do is to set up the environment. So to prepare everything to be able to use Python. So there is a notebook in our list of notebooks that explains how to prepare everything for using Python. It's called Python Environment Setup. And everything is explained step by step. To save time, I have copied the same steps here so that we don't have to go back and forth between different notebooks. So you can simply run these cells below on your computers one by one. We'll do that together, and we'll prepare the environment to run Python. So first of all, we need to install some libraries, so some packages that help expand the functionalities of our code. And we're going to do that using this command, right, which is the official package manager. pip3 is the official package manager for Python 3. And we are also going to use IBIS, which is a Python library that provides like a universal interface for dealing with data. And you can transform data of any size, store it anywhere. So it's pretty nice. So all you have to do, even if you don't know Python, you can just click on this cell, right? And
before you go on, can you stop and get us to the same page? Because I mean, we still are, well, I still have data on my screen, and it has like a list on the side of all the different data that we uploaded, and I don't see notebook.
Oh, sure, no worries. Okay, I'll start again. So you're probably here on this page, right? On this tab. Okay. So all you have to do is you click on the analysis tab, right? And like what you should see is this list of notebooks.
Yep.
Okay, then you go down to number 9, which is the one we're working with today. And you click on it right on the title.
Mhm.
When you do that, you're brought to this page. It gives you a preview of the content. But what you really do is to open it to be able to work with the cells and edit the code. So you click on this button here next to preview. You see it says open. You click on it. When you do that, your cloud environment should be ready, right, from before. It doesn't ask you to select CPUs or storage space, right? It brings you directly to this page. Is that right?
If it doesn't, Allie will work with you because you're behind your machine. Probably you didn't probably load it, so Allie will work with you to get you to this place. So everyone, we should be at, now that Luke has gone through it again, most everybody should be here, and Allie will work with you, Michelle.
Okay.
Perfect. Okay. And so, as I was saying, even if you don't know Python and how to prepare the environment, you can just reuse our work, right? So you can just click on the cell that you want to run and click on this button here, run, which runs the cell, right? So let's see what happens. I'm going to click on run. And you see that the code is actually being executed in real time. So it's collecting data and installing what we need to be able to work with Python. Okay, so we installed this library, right, for transforming data.
Okay, hold on just a minute, Luca.
Sure. Oh yeah, let's wait for it.
So what you're trying to do is, in order to use Python, it's almost like you have to have a SAS package or a statistical package, a stata package, or that's like what you used to do on a laptop, right? So what we're doing right now is we're loading the Python package into this workspace. And it's already available to us because of this notebook, because it's a library that has code already written. Because if you didn't have this, you would have to write all of that code yourself. But it's been written like a statistical package, and it will just load it itself for you. And you don't have to know Python in order to do that. So since you're in this library and we are in the load Python package, all you have to do is hit the little icon up there that says run.
This one.
And what it's going to do, it's going to it's like putting the statistical package on your laptop, but it's putting Python in your workspace. Everyone follow that concept? Open up, talk if you don't understand that concept. And by the way, when you're not with us on the Think-a-Thon, you have to do this step first for all the other things that you want to do. So you have to run Python. So make note of this little process that you go to Jupyter Notebook 9, like take notes, click on the load Python package, and you're going to hit run before you can do anything else with the data.
Yeah, you have to do that for every cell that you see containing code.
So everything that you're going to work on, you have to do this one step first. Okay. All right.
Okay, perfect. Same thing with the next cell, actually. So I'm gonna hit run here. Of course, you have to click on the cell first, and then you hit run.
I thought we weren't going to do BigQuery today.
No, then don't worry, Debbie. This is for another example.
We're not doing BigQuery today.
The plan was to do BigQuery, but we won't get to that probably.
We're not doing BigQuery, so don't load it. We're just doing Python, the first example. Okay.
And now we have to import some other libraries that we will need today, right? So imports in Python are done using the import keyword, right? And you can see here that there's a list of libraries that we are importing. Some of them we have encountered, right? So I told you that Pandas is an open source package that is used for data science analysis. And then we have NumPy. You have plot9, which you can probably tell from the name is for creating plots. And then some system functions like OS and time. They are, OS is for like creating or removing folders, right? Because we're gonna have to save the data. And time retrieves the current time. It's not really important for you guys to know all of this right now. It's just important that these packages are imported.
So there's 2 steps to this, right? And the reason that these imports that he's telling you right now, because these are special, think of it like special code or special tools to do something. So notice the one that says from plot9, that allows you to plot the data. So these are just extra things. So write it like this, think of it like this, is you need to do 2 things. One, you need to upload or load Python, which you hit run to do that. And then you're going to import this set of code into the workspace as well, because this is going to give you some extra tools in order to do visualizations and run different codes. Okay.
So all you have to do here again is, you click on the cell anywhere in the cell and you click run.
Okay, so just click in and then go up and hit run. Click in the cell and go up and hit run. Okay.
Okay, can I go to the next step? Okay, so now we need some information about the Terra workspace, right? About the environment we are working in. So this is needed, again, to be able to save, for example, your data in the storage space that is associated with your workspace, right? So we need to get this information. And there is a way to do that simply by running a cell, right? So, for example, we need the Google Building project name and the workspace name. But workspace name is easy, right? The Google Building project name is basically the free temporary building account that we put you on today. Because, of course, we're going to use data, there are going to be charges. And so that's why we need this information. And as you can see, you can just click on this cell again.
Okay, hold on. Mm-hmm. So the reason you need to do this is because it sets up your project name and your billing name. But today, all you have to do is click on it because it's going to be all part of ours. But keep in mind, everywhere that you see what is called a string, which is the word inside of quotes, you can change that name. So that name can change to when you're using your own accounts and your own workspaces and your own titles, you can change those parts of it to what you need.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like in this case, there is no need to change it because it's just code that gathers that information for you automatically. So it takes care of that. You don't need to change anything here.
Right.
All you need to do is run this cell. So you click anywhere on it, and what it's going to do, it's going to get the project name, the workspace name, and then we're going to verify that we have actually captured those variables, right? So we're going to use the print function, which is something that is used to display on screen the information that has been gathered. So I'm gonna run.
And so one of the questions in the chat was, what am I supposed to see? And so you're not going to see anything until we start hitting print and add data.
Right.
You're just trusting that you hit run and it was doing its run thing.
Right.
And you'll know you didn't do it right when you can't see the print or you can't see the data.
Right. So the reason why we added that print command is just to be able to see what information is being gathered. And it's actually being printed here. So you can actually see that our Terra Building project now is ScHARe 10. Our workspace is the name I created. It's going to be different from all of you, of course. The Terra Building project is going to be the same, but The workspace name is going to be different. And the workspace storage bucket, it's
okay.
like,
So on your screen, everyone on your screen, you should be seeing this same piece of it that he just went over, because that means you did it right.
yeah, just slightly different. The workspace name is going to be different. The storage space is going to be different.
Okay. Smita?
Yeah, so there is a warning popping up in the top of the screen with something to do with the notebook not being saved.
Yeah, it happens sometimes. Actually, if you notice, the same thing popped up on my screen. Don't worry about it. Just run the cell. It's going to be okay. Most of the time.
Do we need to like keep saving it, or it's like auto saved, or how? So I understand today it's like a demo, but if we are working, how do we make sure the notebook's kind of saved in the environment as we progress on it?
Oh, that's a great question. No, it's actually auto saved, but feel free to also use this button if you want. You see the first one here, it's to save your work, but it's also auto saved automatically. So it creates checkpoints from time to time. So you don't need to worry too much about it. You know, before leaving your work and this notebook, maybe press on save.
Okay, so let's get a notebook. Let's get some data in because got 15 minutes left.
Yeah. Okay, so you're using that TSV file, right, containing that data about the Minority Health Social Vulnerability Index dataset. And this is what the process is going to look like. So imagine you have any kind of data on your computer. So it's going to be a CSV or a TSV file, whatever file format you're using, or an Excel file, right? So what you have to do now is to upload the data to the workspace bucket. The bucket means like the storage space that is associated to your workspace. And then we're going to use a command, read CSV, that will actually load the data into the notebook. And finally, we are going to run some plotting functions. We're going to interact with the data.
So let's do one thing, Luca. Let's load the data.
Okay. So I would invite everyone right now to download this sample TSV file, right? Because you don't have it on your computer. So I'm going to invite you to click on this link where it says download file, download it on your computers. It's just the data set that I was talking about. Okay, don't change its name. You can leave it as it is. And then the next part, once you have saved it on your computer, we're going to upload it to the workspace bucket. So we're going to bring it to this notebook's virtual machine. So there are additional explanations that we provided here. When you have more time, feel free to review them if you want to understand how the workspace
Let's just
works.
stay focused on getting the data in. No sidebars.
Okay, you don't want to go too fast.
No.
Okay, so what we're going to do now, there are two ways to do this. I'm going to hide this. We're going to focus on the easiest one. So we're going to use the Terra user interface. So what we need to do is physically transfer, like copy, upload the file that you just downloaded to the Google bucket, which is the storage space associated with your workspace. So to access the bucket that is associated with your workspace, you can open dashboard. So right click on the dashboard and then open it in a new tab. When you do that, click on that tab. And what I wanted to show you is that if you click on cloud information, right, there is a open bucket in browser here. If you click on it, you will be brought to a place where you can actually access all the contents of your bucket. And you can also upload the data that you need to your workspace. So when you are on this page, you have to click on upload files.
Luca.
Yes.
Go back. You're
too quick.
You're not giving people time to do it, so they're lost.
Okay, perfect. Let's do it more slowly. Okay, so what we're trying to do is we're going to access the storage space that is associated with our workspace. To do that, we need to access it, and we need information on where it is. So that information is available in the dashboard section. So what we're going to do is we're going to right click on dashboard, and we're going to open the link in a new tab so that we can keep this one running. So when you do that, just change tabs, leave this one open for a moment. So you go to the other one, and you're going to see.
Okay, you guys, when you're doing this, you want to keep what you have. You want to keep the Jupyter 9 open where we're at. So what we have to do then is open up a different tab. So the way that you open that different tab is you go up to the left-hand corner where it says dashboard. Click on that again, please, Luca.
Sure. So from here, you can just right-click on dashboard and then select open link in a new tab.
So what you're going to do from where we are, because we don't want to close this. You don't want to close this file. You're going to go to dashboard, click on it. Let's all do it together. Click. And then you're going to go to the part that says open link in new tab. Okay, everybody, click. Click.
And then it might look different on your browser, but you just have to go to the tabs you just opened.
And what it's going to do is it's going to bring you to a new dashboard, which is the beginning of the ScHARe platform. So if you see this page, you've done it successfully. Nope. Open up another one, please, Lucas, so that the other things are down there.
Oh, sure. You mean the cloud information, or?
Yes, right here. So this is what your screen is going to look like when you open a new dashboard. So what you want to do, because we're trying to get the data now, this is why we're doing this step. You're going to leave the Jupyter notebook open because that's really your statistical package. Think of it like that. It's like your statistical package. You don't want to close that. So when you click on dashboard, you're going to see a screen that looks like this because this is the original home page, right? So now, in order to get the data, you're going to click on the button that says on the right-hand column, down towards the bottom, and it says Open Bucket in Browser. So now everyone click on that.
Yeah, expand this section if necessary. It's normally like this. Then you have to click on this arrow
Just
here.
click on that.
So I'm going to click on this. And you'll be brought to this page.
And so this is going to be what your new look is going to look like, because now we're going to put the data in with Jupyter.
In your workspace, actually. So it's going to be there for you to run analysis and work with it.
Okay. So everybody here? Good? All right.
Perfect. So the next step is to actually upload the file. So if you see here, it says upload files. Click on it. Okay. Then this window will allow you to select the file that you just downloaded. Right. So in my case, here it is.
Hold on.
Open.
Does everyone see the screen when you said open file? Okay. Now you're going to click on the MHSVI County 2018. Okay, click on that and hit open.
And you see that the upload has started and it's completed. So you can see that the file has been added to your storage space. And this page is also where you can import your own project data and everything you need into your workspace. Okay, so we are done with this step. Just make sure that the file appears here. Okay. Then
Okay.
we're going to go back to the previous tab.
Hold on. So they're not seeing the county download file. So
that has been downloaded onto their computers. Sometimes it's in the downloads folder, sometimes it's in the desktop. It depends on what you set up. Look in the folder where, when you download things from the internet, look in that folder where those files normally go. It's downloads for me, but it might be different on your computers.
Look, you have to back up to the downloads. I'm not even following you.
Okay. So I'd ask you to download this file, right? To download the TSV file, click here. So when you pressed on this link, when you clicked on this link, the file is going to be downloaded, right?
Okay, so you guys, this where he's at is back onto the Jupyter Notebook page. So find 3.2.1 and click there, and that's going to download that file, which is the Minority Health Index, on your computer. For most of us that are on IBM's, Dell's, that kind of stuff, not Mac, it goes into a file called downloads on our computers. So that's going to be where this file is, because you downloaded it when you clicked on that tab. So if you didn't click on that, you're not going to find it when you go to the next step. So now go to the next dashboard, please, Luca.
This one, right?
Yeah, where you go.
Yeah, the next step is you click on Open Bucket in browser, and then you're brought here where you can upload the file.
Okay, so now you're gonna find it on your computer, and it's gonna probably be under document downloads.
Yeah, when you click on upload,
so
you can navigate to that folder.
So if you're on upload, then it's going to show you, notice that over here on the left, where it says this PC, this is what we all see all the time on our computers. So this is like what we see on our computers. So my guess is for most of us, automatically just go to the drop down that says downloads, because that's where that file is probably located. Because most of us don't mess with these at all. And every time you download a file, it's going to go to that place called downloads on our laptops. So click downloads.
It's going to be there.
And then you can select that from your download menu. So then click on the 2018 file.
Then you can click open.
And then when you click open, it's going to put it on the screen.
Yeah, in my case, of course, there is a message saying that I have already done that. I just override. You won't see that.
Okay, so now we have the file in the workspace. And yes, drag and drop also works. And Susan, Allie can work with you. Allie, will you please work with Suzanne? Okay, go, Luca. We're running.
No, I found the Google Workspace. Thanks.
Perfect. Okay. Okay, so we have completed this step. Debbie, do we have enough time to go to the next steps, or?
Yes, just go.
Okay, perfect. So now what we have to do now that the file is in the workspace, we need to load it from the storage space into this notebook, into the virtual machine that is running this notebook. So again, we have code that is going to do that for us. So you're just going to click here in the cell. What this is doing, it's going to grab the ID for our storage space and the full path to the file, right? So if you click on the cell, you can see that it also prints out what we have captured. And you see that it gives basically a link to the storage bucket and a link to the specific file that we uploaded. You don't need to worry too much.
So as you can see, you don't have to know Python to do this, because these little squares, these cells, all you have to do is click on them and run, and it runs the code for you. That's why these libraries are so important for new users, because you don't have to write the code yourself. So now we're putting the data set into the workspace, and all we have to do is come to this number 5 and click run. So he did that. Next.
The next step is to use a command to copy this file right to the virtual machine, so to the notebook. We're using gsutil. Again, just click run, click anywhere on the cell and then run. And it's gonna confirm. You see, operation completed. And then the next step is to actually verify if
once you hit the cell and you hit run, it's going to give you a command that says that you were successful or that you weren't, right? So the successful command here is operation completed. So now your data is now in your workspace with Jupyter.
Yeah. And we can verify.
So every data set you want to work with, you're going to go over these same steps. All you got to do is click the boxes, and it's going to do all of that for you.
Yes. And the following cell is just to verify that it's actually in there. So you can see that giving this command, it gives me a list of files that are contained in my workspace. And here it is, among other things that I already had. Here.
So when you click on this cell, it's going to give you the results of probably what was in the Excel spreadsheet or the CVS file.
No, actually, it's what's in the workspace storage space. And so all my notebooks are in there, and this file is also in there now.
And it's telling you that it was successful because it read it. So you just have to do these same steps anytime you add a data set. Next.
The next thing is to actually read the data into a data frame object, which is like a table, a multidimensional table data structure containing a collection of columns. So something that actually looks like this in this picture. And to do that, to actually import the data into a table, we're going to run this cell here. So I can click anywhere on the cell and then run.
And notice the commands in this. I mean, even if you don't know Python code, it kind of tells you what it is. Like it's going to run a table. And every single one of these cells kind of give you the words of what it's going to do. So you don't have to know Python to do this. You can just run these libraries, and it tells you which library you're running by, you can pretty much see the words. And if you wanted to change something, Luca has this set up for you because of this demo. But if you were using your own data sets, all you would do is change the red part, what's inside of the string, according to the name of your data set. Notice that where it says read CSV, notice that that name is the data set that we loaded. Mm-hmm. So all you got to do is change the name of the data set that you want to work with. You don't have to work with this data set. You can just change the name right there in order to use whatever data set you want to use.
Mm-hmm. And you can see that I'm using this command here to actually take a look at the top of our table. So again, I have generated a table, which confirms me that the data is in our workspace and ready to be worked with.
So you now have the basic steps to create a workspace, put Jupyter notebooks or run Jupyter program in it, so that it actually works, so that Python actually works. You have a set of commands like the pandas and the plot lines and all that you add into it, because this is why you can do all of these tables and different things. Then you now have a data set. You can go get any data set, change the name, put it into your browser, load it up, and just click on these tabs. So if I know we're at 4:30, but if you want to stay, and you can stay, please feel free to stay, and then we'll go through a few more things on here if you have time.
Sure.
Go, Luca.
So the next step would be to actually retrieve filtered data, because we're only interested in part of it, and plot it. So we're going to do that, and there are links to the dataset documentation if you're interested. But we're going to do a very simple analysis. So we're going to see, we're going to try to understand how the 50 US states compare in terms of average percentage of persons below poverty level. So the variable name to do this, if you open the file and actually look at the variables, is EPPOV, right? And we do this using pandas, the library that I mentioned before. Once again, you just need to click on the cells, so it's really easy. So first step is retrieving the data. So we have this code here that is going to select a subset of parameters from the data set. And what I'm capturing is the state abbreviation and that information on the percentage of persons below poverty level. So these two variables.
And the way that you know, I mean, so those are variable names, right? Mm-hmm. So you look at your data set, and you see the variable name that you want to use. So every data set has a variable name label code.
So this is the actual data set, and you would actually go on top and see that this is the variable of interest. And there's a data dictionary, of course, and there is all the documentation you need on the website, which is, we have a link to it, of course.
So go back to that, please.
Sure.
Go.
Yeah, sorry, I was trying to.
Open the spreadsheet.
Oh, the spreadsheet, sure. Okay.
So for those of you guys that are new to doing this, see there's a very top line of every data set is the variable name. And because it's in code, it's often truncated. It's not like, and this is why data dictionaries are so important, because if I just look at this, I'm not sure that I know what EHHH is. So then you go to the data dictionary and you find that I'm just going to make it up because I don't know what it is. I'm going to say it's the housing zip code. And so that's why data dictionaries are important, because it interprets what that code is of the names of the variables. So when you're using Python, you're going to take this top row name, and those are the things that you replace under the red string names. So in this case, we're using the E_POV. Any questions? Follow that? Okay. You can close this one now, Luca.
Okay.
Go back to it. Yep.
Okay.
So notice that EPOV is what this variable is right here. And this STABBR was another variable name at the very top.
Right, it's the state abbreviation and the poverty level. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a table, right, containing all of these, the only two parameters that I'm interested in seeing. And so this command does exactly that. Again, click on the cell and click run. And the next thing I want, since I'm going to have something like this, right? I'm not interested in seeing all the values. I'm going to group the values by state and also calculate the average percentage of persons below poverty level for each state, right? And Python libraries are very flexible. They allow you to do this and many more things. So I'm doing actually both things at the same time, right? So I'm grouping and also calculating the average at the same time using this code. So I'm creating a new table where data is grouped, and I am grouping by, you can actually understand that I'm grouping by reading the code, grouping by state abbreviation. And then I'm using this function here. It's a helper. It's called named add. Okay, it's a helper for aggregating columns, right? And calculating the mean in this case. So these two commands combined get me a table, which is what I want for my analysis. And now let's display some information about this table, right? Let's run this cell. And you see that it tells me that there are two columns now, only two columns versus all the ones that I had before. One is called state abbreviation, and one is the average poverty level for that state.
So in this particular code that he ran, it was to basically format the table. And notice that he's using pandas. And remember, that was one of the libraries that we uploaded earlier. And that's why it's important to upload all of those so that you have the ability to run these just by clicking on the cell.
Mm-hmm. And if you look at the documentation for every library, there are so many functions that you can use to do many more things. And then the next step, this is just for fun. We are using the describe method to show some statistics for the data frame. So just for curiosity, but it gives me the mean, standard deviation, etc., some interesting parameters.
Okay, can you up, please, Luca? Go back up, please. So what he's doing here is basically where it says he's just describing. So this is the average of the EPOV that he was looking at. And so, again, all you have to do is click.
And change names accordingly. Okay, and then I'm going to display the first 5 rows of the data frame, just to have a look at it. And you see this looks like what I wanted, right? Because I have the state abbreviation, and then for every state, the average poverty level. So now I'm ready to plot. And we can do that in the next section. As I was telling you before, we are going to use Plot9, which is a library dedicated to plotting data.
Again, that was one of those that we uploaded earlier when we did pandas and all the rest. In fact, that was one of them I pointed out.
Yeah, if you remember, we imported it along with many others, and now we are using it. So I'm going to set, just a figure size, right? So these are the dimensions. And then the next step is plotting the data. And by the way, there are links to documentation. You can have fun looking at the many options you have while you work with this library. And this code here actually creates the plot. So I'm able to specify everything I need. So which variable should be the X, which variable should be the Y, and then the colors of the data sets and the labels. So I want US states on the X-axis, and I want average percentage of persons below poverty level on the Y-axis, right? And then I want labels for it.
So if you were running this on your own, you could leave all the code that's there, and just the parts where you want to change the variables or change the name, that's all you have to do. So notice that here, the state abbreviation is on the X-axis. So if you want something different, all you got to do is change that variable name. And
Right.
the average EPOV, which he calculated the average earlier, remember, because it was just EPOV and he did an average. That was the step above. And so that's going to be on the y-axis. But if you wanted to run this plot, this graph, all you have to do is change those two names with new variable names. You don't have to write the whole code. You just change those names.
Yeah.
And the same, because everything else is pretty much set up. In this case, it's the United States. So go to the labels, please, for X.
Yes.
So notice again, it's in red. So that'll help you understand what you can change. So let's say you were plotting education level. All you would have to do, if that was a different, title, is all you have to do is write in this string is to, actually it's with one quote. Leave the quotes alone, just change the words, is the name that you want on the top, and then the name you want on the side. So it's very easy to do this, even if you don't know Python. All you got to do is change the names. Follow?
And if you want to do different things, you just have to look at the documentation and see, what the code for that is. And it's the only way, like learning and, seeing documentation, learning by actually trying things out, it's the only way to actually grasp this. So you need to experiment a little bit.
So when you click on the box, you get this diagram.
Right. So I'm going to do that, and it's going to generate the plot. And the negative data here is because of how some missing data was coded. So it's not an error. It's just something that I left the data set as it was, but just so that if you're wondering why it's negative, but any count is good. Okay, perfect. Should we also see how to save data?
Yes, then save it.
Okay, perfect. So the next step, once we have done all of this, is to actually save the data. And you don't have to worry too much about it. I mean, in terms of notebooks, notebook files are auto-saved, as we were saying before, to the workspace storage, right? There is something that you need to be aware of, like if you try to change those parameters for the computing environment and you decide that you need less space or more space, right? So you're trying to change your disk size, then you'd better save your data, because that's a process that can lead to loss of data. That's the only caveat that I wanted to mention here. You don't need to worry about that, but just keep that in mind. And all of the data is auto-saved. If you want to explicitly save some outputs to permanent cloud storage, you can do that in any case, and by doing this. So you need to make sure that the environment variables are set, right? And this was done before, but I'm just going to repeat this process here. And you see it's the same code that we used before, right? So it's going to print these variables here so that we can verify that everything was gathered. And then all we have to do to save all the data to the cloud storage is use the commands below. So these copy all of the files to the storage space. If you want to copy individual files, you can do that. You just have to replace this asterisk here with the file name to copy. And that's all. You click on it, you run it, and that's it. You see, it's copying the files. It says operation completed. And we're done. Now it's in your bucket, so you can access it, even from that page that I showed you before. And this concludes this tutorial. I mean, I don't know if you have any questions, or were you able to follow these last steps?
So are there any questions? At least we got you started, that you got a workspace. You can hopefully download data. You know that you have to run like 3 different things automatically every time. Like it's not an option. You have to download the Python package. You have to put in the imports, those, the pandas, the plot9, that stuff. You have to do that every single time. You have to do the
Set the
Oh,
workspace.
that set up the environmental workspace. And then you have to get your data.
Yeah, so you can start with data already on your computer. You just go to that page that I showed.
Oh, no, Luca. Just it's right now we're just downloading data. It's whatever data just today is just what you downloaded off of the files.
Oh, okay.
Smita. You have a question, Smita?
Yes, ma'am. So after we did the saving to the bucket, will it be in the same location where we had uploaded the TSV file?
Yeah, yes.
Okay,
yes.
thank you.
Sure. You see, like this is like the content, right? And you see the file that we uploaded before is also here. Yes.
So Luca, why don't you go back to the place where it is so you can show that where this file is located?
Oh, yeah, sure.
So it's probably in your download.
Yeah, it's, oh, the file, you mean the downloaded file?
Yeah, the one you just saved.
Oh, okay. Because I wanted to show the contents here, but well, I mean, the download is, just your folder, your local folder on your computer.
Okay, so notice where he's at. So once you've saved it, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, it gets into the storage space associated with your workspace. So you see, I have all my notebooks here and everything we've worked with.
Luca, where's the file that you just saved?
Oh, it's, you can actually, let me show you. Okay. Should I close that? Okay. Okay, so here it is. These are all links that point to those files, right? And it's in the workspace bucket associated with our.
Luca, they want to know, once this is closed, how do they go back and find this file that they just saved?
Oh, it's going to be in the workspace bucket. So let me show you. It's going to be basically.
You need to show them where it's at.
Okay, do that. Oh, refresh. Okay. Different folder. Sorry, it's being slow, but. Okay, you saw it?
No.
Here it is. You see, I'm clicking on it. And all the notebooks, of course, including this one with all the updates, the plots, the plot we created, and all the modifications that we might have made. It's all saved. See, number 9 is here. And you see that last modified like 4:46 p.m., which was a few minutes ago. So it includes all the modifications that we did to it, including, all the analysis of the, the plot we made. And then here is the file that we were working with in the same place, which is the storage space associated with the workspace. Does that help?
Smita?
Do you have any questions?
Yes, I see all the notebooks that we had not even used or opened up. Why did they get transferred into the workspace? Why not just the one that we have been working?
Oh, I could have done that. Like, as I said here, okay, let me show you. So I'm using these commands here.
It shouldn't probably have showed up in your workspace, did it?
Yeah, it did actually.
It did? Well,
Yeah,
you need them. You need them.
Yeah. And
yeah,
actually,
I understand I need it, but what I'm saying that say repeatedly, if we keep working on a particular notebook and we want to save, then we just want that particular one to get updated rather than everything else getting affected due to this process.
and you see that like the commands we ran save all files. But if you want to copy individual files, you can just replace this asterisk here with the actual file name, which you're gonna find like here, for example, right? So just this notebook, for example.
Mm-hmm.
But remember, if it's something that is in the notebooks, you don't need to worry about it because it's gonna be auto-saved in any case. So this is just to demonstrate how you can actually work with data and move it into the cloud storage. But you don't need to worry too much about that, unless you are changing, as I said, the disk space.
Look, they're not worried about it. What they want to know is when they run a project like this and they have their data and they have this, and once it's closed, where did they go to go back and get it?
Oh, just to your analysis section, right? It's in the notebooks. So all the work you did resides in the notebook. So it's got to be in here. The next time you access it, let's say we change something, right? Let me open it just to show you. Because so far we have only run cells. Okay, let's say we modify something, right? Even some text doesn't need to be something. Okay, load all Python packages. Okay, so you see, we could wait for it to save it automatically, but I'm just gonna press save here, just for time reasons. Okay, once I press save and I close this notebook here, the next time I retrieve it, it's gonna happen.
They're not worried about the notebook itself because they want to know where the data is that you just analyzed.
Okay, so the data that we uploaded is gonna be in the place that I showed you before, so in the workspace bucket. And you can access this by going to the dashboard.
So right? This is what they're asking. So you go to the dashboard.
Sorry, I didn't understand that, but dashboard, cloud information, open bucket in browser, same steps that we did before. And here you have access to all the storage space with all the content of your workspace, including the notebooks, data you're working with, all your analysis. You see? This is the file we uploaded. This is the notebook we just modified, right? I hope this helps. What was this your question?
What manager? Do you have a question?
Yes, I was thinking another way we can access the data in the Terra workspace itself, right? Under the data section?
Yes, that's another thing we'll see next time probably. But yes, you can also access some of the data contained in that workspace from the data section. Yes, that's true.
So Tim or Ali, you guys can pop on to help answer any of these.
So far, so good. Manoj, you're right. The data tab is the same. It's just two faces on the same thing. It's a one UI to show the underlying cloud, or you can just go directly to the cloud console itself. So you're totally right, Manoj.
Yeah, you see, this is where you can access your data.
Yep, just under that files when you click files, and then notebooks for anything that was in notebooks, and so.
Anything else? Okay.
Okay.
So what I would suggest is that we had a lot of time of people who didn't register for ScHARe and the Terra platform. Every time, will you please be sure that you have access so that we can actually cover more things. And then from now until the next Think-a-Thon, of course, you can always get the newsletter update you go to the web page of ScHARe and click Stay Updated, and that puts you on the listserv. When you go to the listserv, the newsletter, select the newsletters, and then that's how we communicate that new things are coming out. Please take a look at the data sets on here. You know how to get to them now. You know how to get to Jupyter 9, which is where Python is. And of course, look, what's the number for R?
I think it's number 8.
So there's also that same code, the same sort of a process. If you want to use R, is number 8. So in this case, those of you who know R, just do the same thing, just the cut and paste or click on the cells, or you can write your own code. So it can do R or Python, but we're going to mostly focus on Python during these sessions because that's the dominant language. And that's the one that we kind of encourage you all to start learning a little bit. And so you now know to click on Jupyter 9 and upload those 3 or 4 processes. And you can now import at least federated data sets into your workspace. And again, all you have to do is when you're running some of these codes, just change the variable name. And now you know where the variable name is, because on your spreadsheet at the very, very top is a whole list of data, what we call data labels. And those data labels, many of them are not easy to understand. So every data set has a data dictionary, and you can go into the cloud environment to the data dictionary and look up what those variables are if they're not obvious. And then all you have to do is change the variable name in the Python code. So you can run any data set that you want. Any questions? So we will be back with you next month doing more data sets and entering more things, but please try to register before for each Think-a-Thon that you're ready to go. Okay?